Blank and Yang will stumble upon a pet shop. Blake gets a little... well, you'll find out. You know, I've never been to one of these. I nervously tilted my head away from the girl beside me, staring instead at a pattern of pentagonal stones that make up the sidewalk we're currently walking on. Yang have asked me on a date the day before, coming up to me when RWBY and Weiss, 2 other characters, have already left to further a romance, I suppose you could say. Yeah, there's also shipping with those 2. What surprised me the most was Yang's demeanor. I have never seen her so nervous. She was stumbling over words, looking at the floor. At first I thought she was sick. Then she got a question out of her mouth, and it was my turn to stutter awkwardly. Eventually I managed to form a coherent okay, and Yang's face lit up with a smile so radiant I felt warm just thinking about it. So here we are, walking down a sidewalk in downtown Vale City, looking at various wares displayed in shop windows. Yang laughed quietly at my comments, grabbing my hand with her own.
Huh?
I'm hearing something. What was that? Well, you gotta start somewhere, right? Although I hope you have more fun than I did on my first date. I ended up having to ditch the guy in a Walmart after he tried to get in my pants, the creep. I look up to see her eyebrows furrow. I wonder if his nose ever fully healed or ended up crooked permanently. I'm hoping it stays that way. My knuckles hurt for weeks. Yeah, Yang is... how do we describe her? Let's say Yang just doesn't take shit. And she'll literally just punch the shit out of you.
She's my favorite. Actually, no. Okay, that's a lie. Yeah, I do like Yang, but Pyrrha is my favorite, even though...
I'm torn between Yang and Blake.
I'm not going to get... Yeah.
Everybody's going ape shit. Oh, is Ghost coming on air tomorrow? Pretty much, yeah. He decided to pick the 4th of July. Same day John Cena's gonna fucking come up.
Boo.
Alright. A small smile broke out on my lightly chapped lips as Yang finished, imagining Yang punching an unsuspecting man straight in the face. If Yang was seriously punching him, I'm surprised the guy was so lucky as to only get a broken nose and not a concussion. Because... fucking Yang. Oh, look at that one, I snapped out of my thoughts, to notice Yang pressing her face against a nearby window, staring at what looked like a jacket identical to the one she was currently wearing. The jacket looked a fair bit cleaner than Yang's, however, but probably because it had never been worn in 10-degree weather. A practice Yang refused to give up. Doesn't it look familiar to you? Yang looked up to me. Wide violet orbs shining like light bulbs. Like you already own it? Yang gave me a blank stare, so I ventured further. Maybe you're wearing it right now? She looked down at her own coverings and looked back up with a look of understanding. Finally. I can see how you get them confused, but they're totally different. She flashed me a great big grin as I raised an eyebrow questioningly. See here, this little flap is missing from mine, and the pockets are significantly larger. My palm went to my face immediately. Sometimes, Yang can be so daft. You do realize that is precisely what they're trying to make you think, right? Literally the same damn thing, except they sewed a flap over the shoulder. Now they're trying to charge you $80 for it. The worst part is, you're actually buying that crap. My voice had progressively gotten louder throughout the course of the sentence. It had been slightly muffled by my fingers, though, which I was talking, so it didn't attract much attention. Geez, you really do hate marketing, don't you? She said, looking up to meet my eyes as I removed a hand from my face. Now, is it because you find it morally wrong, or do you just get scammed at buying too many cat toys? Can you stop it with the cat puns already? She threw a sideways glance at me. What? Don't you find my sense of humor simply perfect? She barely finished her sentence before breaking out into laughter at her own mediocre joke. It wouldn't have been that bad if it weren't for the 5th time I heard it today. My thoughts were halted, however, when we walked past a certain store, sign hanging proudly, Patrick's Pet Emporium. A fitting name considering the multitude of clovers that decorated the outside of the little shop, sneakily hidden away between two significantly larger and nicer looking places of business. The name and decorations were not what caught my attention, however. It was the peculiar sensation I was experiencing while walking past it. Felt giddy. My heart rate increased dramatically. I was tempted to ask Yang to stop for a moment, so I can linger outside for a moment, enjoying the feeling I was getting. Thankfully, I didn't need to. Yang suddenly whipped me towards the door, rambling, "Oh, look at the puppies, they're so adorable!" I could hardly believe she had gotten the whole sentence out in one breath. Even though all I could make out was "look" and "puppies." But I wasn't paying attention to Yang. The sensation increased upon entering the store, and I was determined to find the source. What could be causing this wonderful feeling I was undergoing? I started down one aisle, only to turn around seconds later. I felt the sensation lessen. As I walked, I spotted what looked like to be a weed on the ground. I carelessly picked it up and held it before my eyes, and as I did so, the feeling of giddiness and excitement suddenly grew exponentially, and I began to feel lightheaded. The feeling was almost intoxicating at this point, and I leaned on a nearby shelf, taking a deep breath, drinking in the scent of whatever this stuff was. Turns out that was a controversial decision. While the happiness on my chest further increased, I almost passed out, vision becoming blurred. I felt myself sink to the ground, my back resting heavily on the shelf of rectangular bird cages behind me.
Oh my god. Can I just say, Yang is one of my favorite characters.
Yes.
I mean, like, she kicks ass. Her semblance is strong enough that she could go through a steel beam and not feel anything afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
Her fucking fists double as shotguns. That's fucking kick ass. And all of her problems she solves by punching it. Literally.
But I wonder how Yang will solve this problem, because right now our narrator, Blake, is passed out.
Oh, no.
I'm not so sure how long I sat there, blissfully unaware of surroundings, as I simply basked in the glorious substance that I weakly held between my odd rumbling noise that was being emitted from my throat. But I thought nothing of it. I thought only of that which was so dearly held between my hands. My eyes had closed at some point during this exploit, so it was doubly surprising when the small weed-like thing was suddenly plucked from my grasp. My eyes shot open to glare straight into the grinning face of the very girl it arrived with. "What you got there, Blakey?" She pulled away as I lazily swiped at her hand, attempting to reclaim my lost treasure. "Gimme!" My speech was slurred, vision impaired. My efforts at taking back the plant didn't prove successfully. It just causes Yang's grin to widen further. "Seems to me like you found yourselves catnip." I stopped struggling. Catnip? Catnip? You gotta be joking. I've realized that sometimes faunus instincts can be strong, but the cause of my previous trance-like state is catnip? Cheeks reddened as I weakly rose from my position, noticing a small trail of drool that had leaked forth from my mouth. "Let's go," I said tidily. I started to make my way to the exit when Yang grabbed my arm. We can't leave yet." She just gave me a wry smile. I didn't like where this is going. "Really, Yang? Did you really have to buy that much of the stuff?" I questioned the blonde through the scarf that had now been moved from my neck to wrap around my face, specifically covering my mouth and nose. "Yep. This way, whenever you get irritable or all uptight, or when one of the characters in your books dies, I could just pull out some of these weeds, throw them at you, and poof, problem gone. Angry Blake neutralized, sad Blake silenced." She gave me another one of those trademark deal with it smiles. "Besides, you know you love it." "I don't. Stuff makes my head hurt." Might have been lying to Yang, but if it'll stop her from using more of the stuff on me, I'd lie 1,000 times. Unfortunately, it didn't look like it would actually have an effect on her.
Did you stir up the cops again?
No. Probably an ambulance.
No cops.
Oh,
Come
weeds.
on! Just a quick whiff. You know you want to. Yang sings song as she shoved a handful of catnip into my face. My first reaction was to take it and enjoy it some more, but there was no way I was doing that in front of Yang twice in a day. I instead pushed her hand away. Let's just go home. My face in a pout, I rushed ahead of her, removing my hand from hers, shoving both into my coat pockets. And then there's the aftermath.
Yeah.
I hate catnip. Now you may be thinking, why, she can't hate catnip. She's a faunus. Just yesterday, she first discovered the substance, was completely and entirely smitten with its effect. Yes, yes, and yes, I am one. I did discover the stuff. I do love the effect of it, but that's just it, you see. I enjoy the effect it has on me, but I despise it. Not because of any personal reasons. Those deep-seated hatred dating back to when I was a child. My father somehow caused a serious distaste from her otherwise harmless weed. On the contrary, I only recently taken the dislike in catnip. But the emotion comes with the utmost reasons, the most sanctifiable justification a cat person could ask for. I hate catnip because Yang got involved.
God damn it, Yang.
I look up from
And she does one of her trademark shit-eating grins just to fuck with Blake.
I look up for my current choice of reading material, a weathered research text on the anatomy of birds by some no-name author with what seems to be a life-threatening spelling problem. To see Yang staring straight at me with eyes which had so fully captivated me in the past. But not this time. Having learned from my past mistakes, I icily returned the gesture, keeping my eyes glued to hers, while at the same time steeling myself to refuse whatever mouse-brain scheme she had come up with this time. So, Blake, I see you're reading a book there. I cocked an eyebrow at her sing-song tone. Well, damn, guess my cover is blown then, huh? Despite my comment, she pushes on energetically, completely ignoring any and all discouragement I may have been trying to convey. You know, Ruby and Weiss's beds are so awfully messy, don't you think? I turned my head to peer over at the neatly made beds of Weiss and Ruby. Ruby, of course, did not make the bed herself, opting to allow Weiss instead. The more organized individual and their haphazardly romantic relationship make it for her. I suppose this is White's way of showing affection, though this day I continue to find any display of kindness from the Ice Queen to be only slightly suspicious. Still, whatever they directed at Ruby, things usually turned all right, more or less. Though sometimes White's could be a little odd, I suppose, showing Ruby that she cares. Ruby complained to me earlier that day at some point. Weiss had given her a second, more in-depth pamphlet on dust and its uses as a gift, saying Ruby ought to be better her knowledge of more sophisticated matters. Of course, Ruby saw it as Weiss demeaning her, giving cause for me to explain for her some of the ways of showing a significant other you cared. Yikes, Weiss is so Tsuneri. Regardless of the usual romantic measures, however, the fact still remained their beds were pristine. Yang had needlessly diverted my attention from my book. Yang, the beds are fine, just like always. I returned my gaze to Yang. She smiled at me coyly, golden locks swaying slightly as she cocked her head. Oh, really? Funny. Maybe it's just me, then. Sometimes I can be silly, you know. She bumped her palm against her temple, smiling devilishly all the while. Something completely off about her, but I just couldn't figure out what. I decided against investigating further. With Yang, sometimes you could travel to the ends of the earth to find something, only to find out there was nothing there in the first place. In situations like these, and especially when Yang evolved, it's always better to just ignore it and hope it doesn't evolve you, and hope it won't come back later and bite you. Yeah, right. Turned off my lamp, then the click of the switch resounding through the room as it submerged into heavy darkness. Nagano's generous sleeve slid down my arm as I retracted it from the light switch, bringing it closer to my body as I slid further down under the covers. While everyone else had long since gone to sleep, it was not unusual for me to stay up late than the others, reading ravenously. The night, I was drowsy. Perhaps today's classes or the earlier encounter with Yang, but I simply didn't have the energy to stay up as late as I did.
Yeah.
I rarely closed my eyes as I allowed my body to go limp from under the covers. I really was tired. It was odd, however, as I haven't really done all that much throughout the day. Not as if it really matters all that much, and besides, I felt great despite my fatigue. Maybe it was because I was resting. Taking a rest after doing some strenuous work always felt good, but I just felt good. Couldn't explain it, as if I was on drugs or something.
Yeah.
I flipped over in my bed and buried my smiling face into the pillow, the cool fabric feeling good against my skin. The pillow feels strange. It's felt as if there's something inside it, or maybe my pillowcase. I really considered turning out the pillowcase in order to dismiss any rising suspicions, but I quickly turned the notion down. I was enjoying myself too much at the moment to give reason to do anything but envelop my mind entirely in the sweet scent that's so gently tickling my nostrils. The smile grew yet larger as I absent-mindedly rubbed the pillowcase on my skin, enjoying the sensation arising from the action. I seemed to recall this sensation as if I experienced it before, even recently. I couldn't figure it out, as if it was the answer that was hiding in the back of the recesses of my mind, tucked away in a corner where nobody would ever find it, similar to the pet shop Yang and I recently visited. The pet shop, that was where my unconsciously closed eyes shot open, body no longer limp, instead moving in a flurry. I tightly gripped the light, crumpled pillow in my hands, flipping it so that the opening was on the bottom. I had barely begun to shake in the bag, with little brown scrapes came drifting out, falling towards my mattress until eventually resting upon the soft cotton covering. Catnip! Just how in the world did catnip, of all things, get snuck into my pillow? My eyes narrowed as my mind honed in on the obvious culprit. Yang.
God damn it, Yang.
As if it wasn't perfectly clear, how else would catnip mysteriously appear on my pillow? Oh, appear, more like planted there, by a certain blonde fighter who was about to feel the full effect of my rage. Or maybe not. I couldn't just get out of bed and simply attack her. There was always an option. But perhaps, just maybe, there was a smarter way of conducting my revenge. After all, if Yang wants to play dirty and try and trick me, why don't I just return the favor? I have to think about this. What's the most effective way of getting back at Yang? What could I do that would get the message across? There's free reign, after all. Yang pranked me first. I could do whatever I wanted. I pondered those choices for a short while before settling on a victor. A smug smile was plastered across my face as I slowly got up and disposed of the cursed drug like weed, disposing it into a nearby trash can carefully, making it sure it not to become too affected by the nearly intoxicating scent. And then made my way over towards the kitchen of our little home away from home, being grateful of my superior vision in the dark thanks to honest roots, or faunus roots. I deftly selected the smallest knife available from the drawer and headed over to the raised bed of a sleeping Yang, and I began work without the slightest hesitation. While all was finished, I took a step back and admired the handiwork. Wiping thick crimson liquid on a rug nearby rag, I suddenly nodded to myself, satisfied with my revenge. Perhaps I probably got a tad too far, but given the fact Yang had actually gone so far as to use drugs to play pranks, I thought my actions were warranted. So tired and only wishing to get back to my warm, soft bed, I clambered underneath the blankets and drifted off to sleep, eagerly awaiting the events of the coming day.
Okay, so she carved something onto Yang's face, or she killed Yang. I don't know.
I jolted awake as a piercing screech tore through my brain, resounding from above me. My first instinct was to spring up and find out what the trouble was, but I quickly gathered my wits and instead slunk back down into the warm folds of my bed. "What's wrong, Yang?" I quietly asked, as Ruby and Wise, climbing out of their beds, stand across the room, mouths hanging open as if being pulled out by an invisible force. "Which one of you did this? I swear I'm gonna murder whoever's responsible for this. And to think I just got a cut." Yang continued to whimper to herself as she nursed her hair. Previous wild and free blonde locks were gone, replaced with short and neatly trimmed haircut, complete with cutely crimson coloring.
Oh no! She messed with her hair. Oh shit!
I don't see any
made us
problem,
think that
Yang.
she fucking murdered her with a knife.
I didn't see any problem, Yang. I think it even suits you. I removed myself from my warm bed and casually made my way to the nearby mirror, calmly preparing myself for the busy school day to come. It was you, wasn't it? How can you do this to me? She looked so cute when distressed. Really, I almost felt guilty. It wasn't hard, really. They have a new product out, kind of similar to hair chalks, except lasts way longer. Although we really don't see why you're so upset. I wasn't lying when I said it suits you. I always thought it might look good with red hair, so I picked up some dye a while back. Never actually went through with it, but I must say I'm happy I didn't. This makes me much happier than if I dye my own hair. Think of it as a makeover, as a thank you for the catnip that you so kindly put in my pillow. I figured it would be easier to just put it all out at once, but Yang just got more wild, hopping down from her perch on her bed, clothed in her provocative nightwear. But did you realize
she just have like a shaved head right now?
No, short hair, I guess. But did you really have to cut it too? Couldn't you just stop with the dye? She whirled around to look right at me as I fiddled with my shirt in the mirror. How could you do this to me? She suddenly stepped closer to me dramatically, arms flailing theatrically. Do you know what you've... She stopped short as she noticed her reflection in the mirror. I was unceremoniously pushed aside as she moved closer, toying with her hair and gazing curiously. Well, I guess it isn't that bad. The color is nice. Just like that, Yang seemed to calm down and was now trying various poses. You know, Blake, you might think of this as revenge, but I gotta say, I like the color. She flashed me a great big grin as I sighed. Even when I'm trying to make her upset, I just couldn't do it. Maybe I likes it so much that I just might see fit to give you a little thank you present. I backed away a few paces as Yang smiled deviously, rising from her position in front of the mirror to walk slowly in my direction. No, that's fine, thanks. Really, I just wanted to do a good deed. No thanks needed. I'm glad you liked it, though. I smiled and laughed nervously as Yang continues to advance towards me. RWBY, Weiss, a little help? I looked over to see RWBY smile apologetically while Weiss remained stone-faced. Somebody would just want to see the world burn, or maybe they should want to see me burn. Either way, no help. My thoughts were cut short when I was suddenly gripped in the tightest and strongest embrace to ever exist on a single plane of existence. It felt as if my spine was going to snap at any moment. Eyes bulged as all the air within my lungs was suddenly thrusted out. Thank you, Blake. Thank you so much. She sounded muffled as my entire head was encased with a massive cleavage. While that might have been nice under other circumstances, it wasn't pleasant as I was quickly being deprived of much-needed oxygen. I weakly struggled against the monstrous bear hug, letting out a faint cry of distress as it became increasingly more difficult to get my thoughts in order. If only I could get out of here. I was beginning to lose feeling in my legs. My shriveled lungs surged as new fresh air filled them, and the mountainous pressure that had mounted on my back receded. My body went limp as I instantly crumpled onto the floor, gasping for breath. Don't you think you went a little overboard? I heard RWBY question from across the room. I was suddenly hoisted up from my position on the floor and thrust onto my now crumpled bed. Yang sighed. Yeah, I guess I did a little. Yang's face suddenly became mildly apologetic. Sorry about the catnip, Blake. Damn, you really know how to get back at someone, huh? I watched with my head against my mattress as Yang huffed, leaning against the nearby wall with a newfound haircut flowing slightly. I guess I did go pretty far. Sorry. I looked away from Yang, suddenly unable to look at her now alien head, expecting further scolding from my less than subtle approach towards the revenge. I was taken by surprise when a body slid into the space next to me with an arm around my waist. No, I think it's my fault. I felt her ship beside me. No hard feelings, all right, Blake. My eyes widened at Yang's sudden show of empathy, an emotion so rarely displayed by her. No hard feelings. The warmth spread throughout my chest, flared as I was pushed closer to Yang's embrace. Her presence next to me was calming, as if I could lay there forever, oblivious to the outside world and be completely fine with it. In a moment, all I cared about was the crazy blonde pressed up against my side. The blonde who had entirely captured my heart even out at those early stages. All I cared about was Yang. The end.
Woo! Clap, 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 clap. That was good.
Yeah. So she cut her hair short and dyed it red.
Mostly, I believe.
I think it sounded like she dyed like the tips of her hair. Like it's still blonde, but she has like red highlights or something.
Mm.
That actually sounds pretty badass. I mean, the hair being shorter doesn't seem like it works, but what do I know? Woo!
As soon as I heard her hair was short, I was like, oh no.
I was convinced, like, it freaking hinted at, oh, the knife was Crimson's, like, oh shit, did she cut her?
Damn, that'd be a little extreme, even for Blake.
Still suggestive themes, though.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing.
Oh lord.
But
Maybe I
RWBY
should-
is notorious for that as well.
Oh shit. Something tried to fucking trash my insides. Maybe I should conclude this now since we've pretty much done all we can.